What's going on, y'all, and welcome back to another Epic 7 video. Today we're going to cover the custom group summons, specifically the limited characters and how they're up to date for the current 2023 meta and their artifacts, because some of them artifacts are better than the heroes themselves. But guys, before y'all skip ahead, since some of y'all do skip around in the videos, I need to make this clear. There's something you need to be aware of, and if Smilegate gets mad at me, I'll take the heat, I'll apologize, and I'll talk about it in future videos. But there was a leak for the slime collaboration that was projected for May, and the leak looks credible, but until they officially announce it themselves, guys, it is a leak, and you should take it with a grain of salt. It is not official. It could be fake. It could be delayed. It could be whatever, but it is something I think I want you guys to know. Keep in the back of your mind. So Rimuru and Milim, I would rate even higher than the limiteds we're going to talk about today because of the fact that they're collab limiteds, and that means they're even more rare. They may never come back, and they're also still very relevant to this meta. So if you can, guys, as a free-to-play, set aside at least one pity, if not two, but two pities I can understand is hard to save up as free-to-play. If you can set aside one or two pities, and then with the rest of your extra bookmarks, skystones, whatever you got to do to dig deep, shop refresh, get those arena weeklies, you can spend the extras on this custom group summon we're going to talk about. But please be ready and at least have the knowledge that slime could be coming. We just don't know for sure yet. So take it by a look at your own account and see what you can do in terms of saving, and just, don't regret going too hard on this and then, not having enough for the slime collab. But until then, it's a leak, so just want to get that out there and make sure you guys are aware. Today, let's talk specifically about the custom group summons. I believe this is going to be the third iteration of the custom group summons, so this Thursday, these might be subject to change, and there's a few things I hope they do change, but if they keep it same as last year, guys, this will be what applies, and it's something you need to be aware of as well. Let's read this together. The available hero criteria: heroes who have been released at least 6 months before the end date of the custom group summon. So if they keep this the same, Amid will not be available. Summer Break Charlotte might not be available because of the next line here. For limited heroes, those who have had at least one rerun. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, guys. I try to do a quick search up, but it's hard to find like release dates and stuff. I don't think Summer Break Charlotte has had a rerun. If I'm wrong, then that's good, because that means she will be included, but just be careful. She might not be there. Summertime Iseria, I believe did, and she wasn't available in this last one we're going to be, basing this off of. So it seems like a mid, and maybe Summer Break Charlotte won't be, but everything else, including Summertime Iseria in this list, will be. So we'll talk about those specifically. I mentioned artifacts as well, so we'll talk about Luna Draco Plate, Diene Wall of Order, Landy Guiding Light, Seaside Bologna, Reingars Drink, Holiday Hofine, Champion Trophy, Cerise Guiding Light, Fairytale, excuse me, and Fairytale for Nightmare. And last but not least, we have, who was it? Summertime Iseria and Star of the Deep Sea. Some of these artifacts, guys, are so important, and there's a way you can kind of get those at least, one copy of each very easily. So let's break that all down and talk about those heroes. So how this is all going to work, guys, is you can pick 3 heroes, not just limiteds, but that's what we're going to focus on. I would suggest picking limiteds and their artifacts, as you have a chance to also buy the artifacts with powder, and if they follow the same rules as the one we're looking at here, last year's, you get the artifacts at a slight discounted pity rate of 100 coins. That means when every time you summon, you get 1 coin, and if you hit 120 summons without getting anything, you can either buy the hero for 120 or one of the 3 artifacts as listed here for 100. It'll all make more sense when it comes out, guys. It's way more complicated than it sounds, but the more units you're missing, the more stuff you can get, the more chances you are to get lucky, hit big, and get some bonuses with those extra coins on top of that. So let's go one by one, and let's start off with Luna and Draco Plate. Luna, one of, if not my all-time favorite character, is still okay to this day. She did receive some buffs, I think around half a year back, as well as, some exclusive equipment stuff, but she is more suited for aggressive styles. If you want to just go like for a full bruiser ice unit, you have units like Shu that I think work much better and just are more busted at the moment, more broken. If you really like Luna, though, you can still get her and she will do just fine. She's not a bad unit by any means. I think she just got power crept, and there's some better ice bruisers specifically out there. Now, her artifact Draco Plate is very important. It's one of the best warrior artifacts in the game. It breaks some rules with the crit damage, and it also provides crit damage reduction. If you play a lot of warriors, I would suggest picking at least 1 up. Remember, every artifact I talk about today, guys, if you can pick up 1 copy, you can always slowly bottle it later. Remember, these are limited artifacts, and so their availability is going to run only when these heroes come out, which could be just now on these custom group summons. So I rate Luna not very high, but Draco Plate, make sure you pick up at least 1 copy if you play a lot of warriors. Next up, guys, we have Diene in Unfading Memories. Diene, one of the oldest limited characters, if not the oldest, at least in the US version. She pops in and out of the meta. I think she is making a comeback, guys, with the recent balance patch, but it's too early to say. If I talk about like the latest season, she hasn't been like the top dog Soul Weaver by any means. She is more strictly a PvP unit. You can use her in PvE. Just make sure you bring sustain via Rod of Amaryllis or her own artifact as well, which we're talking about in a second. But Diene, I would actually rate lower than a lot of the units we're going to talk about today. Not saying she's bad. but I think there are some other artifacts or heroes that are much more relevant to the current meta. Just be careful, guys, as she's a unit that pops in and out. So if you do take RTA seriously, I might, she might be the top dog here by the end of the season. Who knows? Just stay tuned for the other artifacts I talk about, as some of them are really, really must-have if you don't have. Unfading Memories definitely got buffed and is not a bad artifact overall. But like I keep mentioning, some of these artifacts like Guiding Light and Star of the Deep Sea are like make or break for certain characters, and you need to pick those up first if you don't have them. Next up is Landy, which is going to be one of my top priority picks for the hero section. Unfortunately, the artifact she wants to run on Guiding Light, for the most part, you can run her on other stuff, but we're not going to talk about all the Landy builds in this video. The Guiding Light, unfortunately, comes with a Cerise, so you will have to pick up those two separately. They do make a nice pairing, but just talk about Landy specifically. She is very, very strong currently. She's been strong since her release. She's so important. I think she's one of those pivotal, like, meta-defining units where she will answer certain comps that other units cannot. She has insane reach. She can be protected via Guiding Light. She has some of the best scaling, can 1v4, anti-buffs. Just such an insane unit that I think every person that plays PvP, she even has some PvP potential, honestly, but not really. That's what you pick her for. If you play PvP, RTA specifically, I think you need to pick up Landy, or at least have her in your arsenal. Now, her artifact, Wall of Order, did get buffed as well, and I've seen some people pull off some crazy Wall of Order techs with Landy. But if you're newer and you don't know what you're doing yet, you only can pick up one copy, definitely go for something like Guiding Light, which will be so much more important for protecting Landy at the beginning. The Wall of Order is probably for more advanced players, but Landy remains a very high priority pick. If you play PvP seriously and you don't have a Landy, really consider getting at least one copy. Next up, guys, we have SSB Seaside Bologna, one of my favorites too. I use her all the time still, but in all honesty, she isn't as good as she used to be. Same thing with her artifact. There's way more options that you can use if you don't have access to her, especially now with like Dark Bologna out, Lone Crescent Bologna too. But talking specifically about Seaside Bologna, she makes Wyvern one shot. Very simple. I currently use that. But in all honesty, guys, you don't need a one shot Wyvern, or you can use a slightly higher gear requirement or difficulty Wyvern one shot. There's so many options out there for that. Don't base your pulls on this off just Wyvern. It's so easy nowadays. Don't bother. For PvP, I think it's the same thing. She's been power crept. There's other options as well. I still use her in some scenarios, but if you don't have like a plus 30 drink or some insane lifesteal gear, I think some people try injury. But all of that, guys, is more of a special tech for higher level players. You don't need her as a newer player. There's other units that are going to give you much more bang for your buck. And then talking specifically about her artifact, Reingars Drink. I think a lot of other Rangers tried it in the past, but she's the main one that uses it at the moment, I think, at least from what I've seen. And if you don't have it plus 30, there is an RNG element to it, so it feels bad if you can only use it at plus 15. So right now, Seaside Bologna and Reingars Drink, I rate pretty low on the priority list. Now we have Holiday Hofine. Holiday Hofine went through a lot of different buffs as well, but unfortunately, I think she's still going to be more of a niche option. Some people can go insane with her, but like I mentioned with Seaside Bologna, guys, she's going to be more of like a special tech unit. A lot of people run her like with Guide to a Decision, I believe the Barrier Artifact, to use in like certain anti-debuff, anti-cleave comps. But as a newer player, you're not going to be needing that specific niche setup like 1 out of 10, 1 out of 20 games for now. General purpose, I think she's okay. Definitely not a must-have unit. Definitely not like a high priority meta unit. But there is some special tech you can use with her because her kit is kind of unique. So newer players, don't worry about her for now. If you guys are more like have a lot of these other limited units, you can look into getting her if you think she might help you with the evasion plus the cleanse. The fact that she has AoE and burns is really cool too. She's one of my favorite looking units, obviously. But yeah, on the lower priority list, and along with her artifact, which we'll talk about right now, Champions Trophy. I think some people use this on like Conquer Lilius, but even for Conquer Lilius, there's other artifacts if you want effectiveness like what is it called? Circus Fantasia. So it's definitely also not a must-have artifact by any means. Just like Seaside Bologna, Holiday Hofine and Champ Trophy, lower on the priority list. Next up, we have Cerise, who unfortunately, as the hero standalone, has been power crept. There's better openers, better control units. I think she's still great in things like Dark Expedition, but overall, like I mentioned, there's better options nowadays. I want to focus more on her artifact, Guiding Light. Guys, listen up here. If you don't have Guiding Light, you need to pick Cerise just for that artifact. You need to pick up 1, if not like 10 copies. I'm not kidding here. Depending on how much you can get, obviously, and how lucky you are, get at least 1 so you can bottle it, but try to get like 1, 2 to 3, because depending on how y'all play, if you play multiple Rangers and these meta Rangers that like Guiding Light, like Landy, like Briarwitch Iseria, maybe Faithless Litica, there's a lot of them out there. Guiding Light is so busted of an artifact that it makes a lot of other Ranger artifacts obsolete. It's not the end-all be-all. Like I mentioned with Landy, you can run things like make her tanky and run like Bloodstone or Wall of Order. But I think for a lot of players, it's just going to be the best and most easiest artifact to use because of how strong it is. So this is one of the highest priority artifacts I'm going to talk about today. I think every single player needs at least one Guiding Light, if not multiple copies. Even myself as a more tanky player, I still use it all the time. So make sure y'all pick one up. Highest priority that we're going to talk about today. One of the highest priorities. Next up, we have F.Tenebria, guys, who also got buffed. Recently, we haven't seen her too much, but after the buffs, I think she's a great last pick for endgame RTA players. She's either must answer, but there's a lot of cleanses, a lot of stuff out now. Control is much harder to run than it used to be, so this is more of an endgame PvP pick. If you're newer, she's not a high priority unit by any means. Take stock of the other ones we just talked about. Now, her artifact, though, is a different story. Fairytale for Nightmare for units like Solitaria, especially Archhuman Mercedes and Aria can be best in slot. Now, unlike Guiding Light, though, so I'll rate this slightly lower than Guiding Light. I think the alternatives are much closer in terms of competition, meaning things like Abyssal Crown, or for Aria, her own artifact, Scroll of Shadows, or you can run like Bastion if you need more effect resist. Those might be alternatives that you don't need. Also, obviously, Tagahel's book can always be used as well, depending on your comp. But I do think for units, especially like Solitaria, and I like having a lot of these, plus 30 especially, it is a very, very powerful artifact depending on how you play. Less priority than Guiding Light in my opinion, but definitely look at picking it up if you play a lot of mages that I just mentioned. Last but not least, guys, because I don't think Summer Break Charlotte will make it into the list. If she does, I'll add a note, but don't worry, Summer Break Charlotte isn't like a top meta pick at the moment. Her and her artifact can be decent, especially the artifact for certain knight players, but overall, all the other units I'm talking about, these meta ones that I say high priority, are definitely higher priority than Charlotte as well. But let's talk about Summertime Iseria. She isn't as oppressive as she used to be in previous seasons, but she is still a powerful unit. If you guys are more branching into the mid to late game into like specific PvP scenarios, I think Summertime Iseria can still be an amazing RTA cleave / control unit. Just understand there's a lot more options now, both in terms of playing as a cleaver as well as fighting the cleavers. So she's not as powerful as she used to be, not as must-have as she used to be, but her artifact, very important for both her and Pirate Captain Flan. Star of the Deep Sea is a very, very important artifact, guys, and one you want to max out eventually if you play either of the two units. Specifically, Pirate Captain Flan is an absolute terror with this arty. I think it's a must-have if you want to play P-Flan, and the fact that you need like a max limit break copy to reduce the amount of RNG is a little bit whaley. But remember, pick up one copy. You can get that via powder or coins, and then you can always slowly bottle it as you go. But if you do plan to play either of those units, Iseria or Flan, later down the line, you need to make sure you pick up one of the Star of the Deep Seas. Very high priority if you play those units. And that concludes all the limited characters we're going to talk about today, guys. A mid and Summer Break Charlotte. Maybe they'll add them, but I don't think they'll add a mid as she's too recent. And overall, all I can say is good luck on your summon this week. Pay attention if they change any of their requirements or criteria, on the 6 month, had to have a rerun, etc. Remember, also, guys, please remember that Slime Collab might be coming out, but it's not official. I'm so sorry to put you all in this position, or at least I wish, it's not my fault, but I wish I could guide y'all a little bit better and give you firm, definitive answers. But until Smilegate tells us it's coming or not, you're just going to have to make a guess, maybe set aside some bookmarks, and, go with the flow. So overall, good luck. Let me know how it goes. If you guys need to reach out to me, I'll be gone this week, but hit me up anytime via Discord or stop by the live streams. Appreciate every single one of y'all. I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace out, guys.